sixth film in the Ice Age franchise, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, has dropped on Disney+. So today we're going to stop and rank all 6 Ice Age films from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 6 Ice Age films. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. As a point of reference, I don't think I'd ever seen an Ice Age film from beginning till end until just a couple weeks back when I binged through the entire franchise. And of course I was very familiar with the Scrat cold opens because that's what they used to promote the first 5 films, but I can't recall a time where I watched one of these films from beginning till end until just a couple weeks back. So take that into consideration with my ranking. I'm brand new to this series and I have no idea which of these takes are hot takes. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. Every single thing about this movie feels cheaper and lower in quality than the rest of the franchise. And after I watched it, I did a little research into it to try and figure out what was up with this movie. Apparently, it originally started out as an idea for a TV series, and they just kind of converted it into a streaming-only film, in which case the budget was dramatically less, the scope and size of the story was much smaller. Only one of the original voices returned for this project, Simon Pegg as Buck. Everyone else was recast, and that's what this feels like. A very cheap direct-to-streaming sequel. And even the fundamental problem inside of the story is that the lead characters are designed to be side characters. They're not interesting or complex enough to carry the weight of an entire story, in which case you get all these little episodic adventures, a couple fun little sequences, but the story doesn't have any heart or weight or emotion to it. It's just animals off, messing around, getting in a little bit of danger for 82 minutes, and that's just about it. Like, I wasn't expecting top-tier Ice Age, but I was at least expecting mid-tier spin-off fun, and that's not what this was. This is a cheapquel, a sequel that's direct-to-streaming that uses the brand name to trick people into watching it, but it's simply not up to the quality that the brand is known for. So this one comes in last place. In 5th place, Ice Age Collision Course. With this movie, I just feel like they completely lost the premise entirely. The series is all about following these creatures during the Ice Age. And here they were trying to do something fresh, fun, different, wild, and crazy. So what do? They send Scrat to space. They bring in UFOs, in which case you get more wild, crazy, zany scenarios. But to do that, they just have to remove like all logic, all kind of rules, and you're just allowing crazy insanity to take place.
You're so pretty.
Will you two quit it?
In which case, in the opening segment, in the ice, we find a spaceship, and we send off one of our characters into space, and then when you get to the finale, there's magic magnetic rocks that have to be thrown into volcanoes to shoot the magnetic rocks into space to redirect the asteroid so it doesn't hit the Earth. I mean, it's all nonsense and mumbo jumbo. I get it, we're watching a movie about talking animals during the Ice Age. This isn't exactly grounded in reality, but there has to be some rules. There has to be some logic. You have to follow something, otherwise I can't care about anything because you're just making things up as you go along. You have to play inside the boundaries of the rules that you have set, and that's not what this is. This is just people doing wild, crazy, zany things, trying to entertain people without having to follow any rules, without having to be clever or witty or constrained. Just send this guy into space. And so a movie that the cast is still fun, the characters are still charming, but the plot itself, total disaster. In 4th place, Ice Age Continental Drift. Now, for me, this is the movie where they started to veer into the category of no rules, just looking for zany situations that set them on the course that led to Collision Course going totally over the top. But this is, I think, a substantially better film than Collision Course, though it does just have a certain lack of logic with some of the things that take place. Right at the beginning, we get this scenario involving Scrat falling into the center of the Earth and causing Pangea to break up and the continents to split apart and everything like this. And immediately, this is a very over-the-top, ridiculous scenario to have take place. And I guess where it started to bother me is that soon after in the film, he's at the bottom of some water trying to track down one of his acorns as always, lifts it up and finds a treasure map to their version of Atlantis, which is like, wait, who made a treasure map? The world fell apart yesterday. I don't understand, like, where did this map come from? Who created it if Atlantis was just formed yesterday of this destruction that he just caused? And it's that lack of attention to detail that makes me, I'm watching the movie thinking about the lack of logic, not invested in the story. But from there, the stuff when you get into Peter Dinklage's this pirate and all those types of adventures taking place, we get more love interest, all that stuff, I had fun with it. It was a nice new twist to kind of bring in some villainous pirates. Pirates are always fun. Peter Dinklage is always exciting, vibrant in these types of roles, in which case, you made for a nice pirate adventure. The way we got there felt a little bit like we're just getting goofy, ridiculous, insane to set up a scenario. You didn't earn the actual plot. And once again, I know we're talking about Ice Age movies, but I watched the first three and didn't have these frustrations, and I got to this one and I went, wait a minute, what are we doing here? You're going a little bit too far. And that's what it felt like. This one was a little bit too far. Collision Course was way too far. Real quick, before I give you my top three, remember to join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of the Ice Age movies. Remember, for me, this was a first time watch. I'm 40 years old. I'm a generation removed from being the target audience. In fact, my daughter ate up all these movies. She loved them and couldn't wait to watch the next one each night as we were going throughout the series. But if I have some hot takes, if I missed a few things, I've only seen them once, and my take is probably very different from yours. If you grew up watching these movies, you will connect with them on a far deeper level than I did watching them just one time as a grown-up with my kids. In third place, Ice Age 2, The Meltdown. Now, this was just a solid follow-up to the original film. If the first movie was all about this odd group of creatures coming together to form this unlikely family, this is about that family expanding, growing, moving forward, bringing more people in and going on a new adventure. And I think the thing that really kind of pulled this one together for me is that they set up all throughout these two movies this kind of arc for Manny as him perceiving himself as the only one of his kind. He's the last one and defines himself so much by that piece of information.
Might be the only two mammoths left on Earth.
So that when you go throughout the course of this movie and you get to the end of it and he discovers that he's not all alone, it actually pays off really nicely. It has a nice emotional arc to it with big, heartfelt payoff because you care about him and you buy into this journey. As much as you're in this wild, wacky world with talking animals, you care about the character. So when he discovers he's not alone, it means something to you. And that to me was the thing that really stood out about this film. That and the butt humor. There's going to be a lot of butt jokes in this movie. But that has a big heart and lots of butts. Our runner-up, the original Ice Age. A simple story about an unlikely friendship forming between a group of prehistoric animals as they go on a quest to try and return a human baby to her family. And while the story itself is fairly simple and in certain ways follows a lot of tropes of the genre where one of the people on their team joins under false pretenses to serve these people over here, but throughout the course of the journey, he's transformed and realizes that the people that he's serving don't care about him the way that this new group of people do, in which case he's changed because that it's all pretty familiar, but that doesn't mean that it's not effective. They give each of these characters just enough of a character arc that's relatable in some sense so that it has emotional payoff as the friendships form, as you learn more about what's driving each of their actions and Manny's worldview and his experiences with humans that have led him to this moment that make the quest that he's currently on so meaningful as to his character that he would actually do this. a lot of it can be really profound stuff for a movie that's very juvenile with its sense of humor. Likewise, being the first movie, it introduced us to a bunch of just really memorable, iconic stuff. In particular, the Scrat cold opens. They were so good, they were so fun, that's how they marketed all of these movies. My primary memories of this franchise, going back 20 years, was seeing those little deals of him climbing up icebergs, trying to get the acorn and everything like that. And they just work as many short films, and so they marketed the films with them. Add to that a bunch of fun characters that you wanted to spend multiple movies with in this prehistoric context. Now, this movie's CGI is also quite dated. In particular, every time they show the humans, it is terrifying. Where's the baby? There he is! Because it is such dated, simplistic computer animation. But besides that, a really solid piece of family entertainment. But in first place, Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Now, as I've said several times in this video, I'm new to this franchise. I have no idea if it's a hot take to put the third movie at number 1 on this list. But for me, I thought this was easily the funniest of all these movies. This was the one that made me laugh out loud the most. And so much of that started right at the beginning, where Sid wants to have his own family and own kids and ends up raising a group of dinosaurs, and it just leads to a bunch of just outrageous scenarios, in particular where he tries to feed them milk, and I couldn't believe that they put that joke about milking someone that you couldn't milk in a piece of family entertainment.
I thought you were a female!
But it definitely made me laugh out loud when it happened. Add to that, Buck is just a really fun addition to the franchise that takes them off on even more adventures. And there's dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are always a nice little touch to add in which case you got good dinosaurs, you got bad dinosaurs, you got backstories. And so for me, this was just the right change of pace that I needed. It had just enough jokes that actually made me laugh out loud with how outrageous they went with some of the scenarios. And so this is the one that put the biggest grin on my face, and that's what I was hoping for as I tuned into these movies. And it's also why I was thinking, expecting, hoping that the new one, Buck Wild, was going to be a little bit higher up on this list, because putting Buck front and center, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But in the case of this movie, he was the perfect, nice addition to the franchise that added just enough spice to elevate things up to the next level, a bunch of solid jokes, so it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, remember I've got more like it right over there in that playlist. I've ranked the Disney movies, the Pixar movies, the Lego movies, the DreamWorks movies, and a whole bunch more. Even Hotel Transylvania just a few days ago. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.